We've fallen deep enough down the Yu-Gi-Oh hole, and it's time to talk about censorship. The international release of Yu-Gi-Oh is downright infamous as being one of the most heavily censored imported Japanese shows of all time. It seems like anything that is remotely risque is off the table. Sexy designs, religious symbols, weapons, violence, death, every little corner you turn, there's something out there that needed to be purified for the sensitive children's eyes. It is hilarious. They really wanted to sell these things to their audience of literal babies to compete with Pokemon in the early 2000s, and I guess that decision locked them in for life, binding them to edit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cards even to this day. Here's my top 10 funniest Yu-Gi-Oh! Censored and banned moments.
Number 10.
The finger guns. You know, for how much parts of good old America has their gun lovers, American Yu-Gi-Oh! Will do anything to keep them away. They love to make gun-based creatures lose their guns entirely or turn into lasers or whatever, but the classic 4Kids anime has one of the funniest solutions I've seen for censoring something like this. They just cut out the guns completely, leaving us with several instances where the characters just point really menacingly as a threat. This is probably the most iconic censor of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, and it still gets a chuckle out of me every time I see it.
Number 9.
Edge Imp Sabers. Okay, guns I understand, but scissors? The Edge Imp Sabers are a stack of possessed scissors. Like, I get it, scissors are sharp and potentially dangerous, but these look barely sharper than your everyday arts and crafts kit. So naturally, the international version decided to, oh, my eyes! My eyes! They blurred the scissors with the brightest, gaudiest bloom light I have ever seen. It just looks like someone dumped a bottle of whiteout over this thing. I know they always warned me as a kid not to run with scissors, but this is ridiculous.
Number 8.
MS Paint. So we've mentioned how international Yu-Gi-Oh! Censors are the sex police. Anything that is remotely sexy gets covered up. There are hundreds of sex-censored cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!, but I've decided to pick some of the laziest or silliest ones and group them all here for one big pick. Like, look at Goddess of Whim here. This is an actual Microsoft Paint tier cover-up. You know, I take that back. I guarantee you that I know artists who could cover this art looking better while still using Microsoft Paint. And some of these just baffle me. Yu-Gi-Oh's living in a world where even Disney would need to be covered up in order to meet their censorship demands. And you cannot show your belly button in Yu-Gi-Oh! Navel, completely off limits. Even for this dude. Actually, this Emperor dude might be the single most censored character in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. He's in so many cards, and he is just too exposed, I guess. And you know that butt crack joke they make with Doodle Bob and SpongeBob? They literally do that with some of these cards. This team makes other kid shows look like they're lewd in comparison. That is whack.
Number 7.
Baby Tiragon. One of the most baffling alters that Western Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes through are the religious ones. They will go well out of their way to remove anything that even remotely resembles a religious icon. Horns on the devils? Gone. Halos on the cards that are literally called angels? Gone. Anything with a 5 or even a 6-sided star? Gone. My winner for this category goes to the adorable little baby Tiragon, whose massive evil demonic horns were shaved down for international release. Even Tiragon's got a look on his face like, seriously? Are we seriously doing this?
Number 6.
Morphtronic Datatron. The Morphtronic archetype are literally Transformers, robots in disguise as regular household objects. Datatron, the pyro-type fire attribute monster, is a regular modern-day lighter in disguise. Apparently lighters are just too evil for the Western censorship board, so they turned him into a 2GB USB stick in disguise. Still pyro, still fire, but now the design makes absolutely 0 sense. Although, 2GB? I guess if you put my mixtape on there, it would be pretty hot.
Number 5.
The Shadow Realm. The number of ways that international Yu-Gi-Oh! Will try and avoid death is infinite. You just can't die, so every time somebody's about to die, they cover it up. Your dead parents? No, they were just kidnapped. Forever. Or there's the Shadow Realm, which covers the entirety of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime dub. Instead of dying, you get sent to a mystical, ambiguous realm of eternal suffering. It's pretty much just hell, with less fire and more purple mist. It's pretty funny to me that the Shadow Realm just kind of makes things worse. If you think about it, objectively speaking, I'm pretty sure I'd rather be straight up dead than in this purple nightmare realm. The censors are so scared of death, you can't even spell death. Instead of D-E-A-T-H for death on the spirit board, we now have F-I-N-A-L for final. Sorry, 4Kids and Konami, but you're gonna have to hold this L.
Number 4.
The Whip. Okay, so pretty much the entire Crash Town or Satisfaction Town arc of the 5D's anime is butchered in its dubbed release. It's the Wild Wild West, baby, which means entire deaths, duel results, and fight scenes are altered throughout. And even the good old finger guns are back. But the highlight of this arc for me is this scene where Barbara whips and snares a dude by his neck. In the dub, they make it look like she lassos him by the waist, but he's still holding his hands around his neck anyways. They turned her into a damn Sith Lord.
You underestimate my power!
Oh yeah, and of course, they digitally painted over her cleavage.
Number 3.
Mystic Tomato. I can't believe they had an issue with this card, but the original Mystic Tomato art was changed completely for its international release to be this cuter version. I don't know if it was the sharp teeth or those weird scars on its face, but I'm honestly shocked that they needed to change. Wait, what? This one is our version and that one is Japan's? What? Okay, I'm gonna drop the act for a second. Mystic Tomato saw a decent amount of competitive play in the early days of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, but I never in my life would have thought that the Japanese art was something that they chose to redraw. I don't get it. It just looks like a tomato jack-o'-lantern. Are there problems with jack-o'-lanterns somewhere internationally that I'm not aware of? This card is almost cute. I just don't understand. The anime shows the international design of the card, but then when the monster's summoned, it's obviously still the original Japanese design. I just want to know why. Why was this card changed? You can even see the original design in the background of other cards. I just don't get it.
Number 2.
Zork. Called Zork Necrophades in Japan and Zork the Dark One in English, this monster is one of the biggest threats to the world in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. But the big thing most people remember about Zork is his giant dragon dong. I don't think there's a single joke I can make here that's funnier than the design itself. There it is. Very plain to see. The English anime tried to cover this by giving him a couple extra 1,000 pounds to make it look like the old trouser snake was coming out of his stomach instead. The original English manga was almost entirely uncensored, so I got to witness the full Zork in all his glory. But for the first time on today's list, we even have a censor that happened in Japan for some of the manga printings. They gave him a wraparound dragon instead of a purely phallic one. Kazuki Takahashi, the manga's creator, was very ill during the writing of this arc, and he jokes that Zork's absurd design came from his grogginess during that period. You know, classic fever symptoms. Running a temperature, vomiting, drawing a demon lore with a humongous dragon package. It's happened to the best of us.
Number 1.
Spy C Spy. This is it. This is the king of Yu-Gi-Oh! Censorship. You know those old spot the differences games that you'd play on Highlights magazine while you were waiting for some horrible dentist to mess you up? Well, call up Steve Martin, because this single card has so many edits that it's a game on its own. What's this? 0.5 inches of cleavage. Unacceptable. Cover the breasts now. Exposed thigh? How dare they? Conceal it. And is that the devil's liquid? I can't believe my eyes. Turn that into a more wholesome drink this instant. And you know what? Take the drink out of the man's hand altogether. And what is that in his mouth? A cigar? Gone. These men are pigs. Do you see this one looking as though he might actually enjoy looking at a woman? Shut those eyes permanently. And I swear, were you not listening to me on my first order? I said cover the breasts! All of the... This card is new, too. I mean, it's 5 years old, but for a 20-year-old franchise, it blows my mind that the localization of this entire series will forever be locked into the Stone Age. Anime has grown a ton in the West since the turn of the century, to the point where we now have entire services dedicated to watching the original Japanese content as easily as possible. I get that they're trying to protect the kids or whatever, but anime really is not that bad. No, watching one anime won't turn you into a crazed citizen who enlists millions in order to try and overthrow the government.
People kind of want to know what's in there. I think a lot of people are going to show up.